Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the I Know a Guy podcast. On this episode, I sit down with Sherry Houston, the CEO of Ronald McDonald House Charities, North Central Florida. Sherry is a passionate and enthusiastic individual who takes every day head on to lead this organization. She's going to talk about how the Ronald McDonald House is a home away from home for families with seriously ill children receiving life-saving treatment in the local hospital. She's going to talk about the behind the scenes of what their staff does to work hard, talk about the challenges that families face, and how maybe you can help. I hope you enjoy this episode of the I Know a Guy podcast. Sherry Houston, welcome to the I Know a Guy podcast. How are you this morning?
Oh my gosh, it's so good to be with you, Ben.
So listen, people need to know who you are. First, you're the CEO of Ronald McDonald House North Central Florida Charities. Is that right?
I am.
Okay. I know what Ronald McDonald House does for the most part. A lot of folks don't know the full story. And like if you asked me 15 years ago, Ronald McDonald House, I said, yeah, of course, that's the playhouse thing when you go to McDonald's and you can go in there and, all that stuff. But that's not really what Ronald McDonald House, is. What is it?
So we keep families close to their seriously ill child, and we have two different programs. We have a family room located on the 10th floor of UF Health Shands Children's Hospital, really an oasis within the hospital environment. We provide snacks, non-perishable microwavable meals. There's a sleeping area on a first-come, first-served basis. So any family who has a pediatric patient can use our family room on the 10th floor, and it truly is that oasis. And grab something to eat and then go back to be with their child. And then the second program that most people know us for is our 50-bedroom guest suite home. And it gives me such joy to say that. And we can talk a little bit more about why
Sure.
It gives me joy. But we do have a 50-bedroom guest suite home. And that house is filled at 100% occupancy all the time because of those fabulous doctors at our children's hospital.
Wow. So talk about the home. You said 50 bedrooms?
Yes, and that is new to be able to say because our 41 years operating as a Ronald McDonald House, we had been in a 31-bedroom home. And we knew 7 years ago that our wait list was very long. We are an indefinite stay house, which means once you get a room, you keep that room until your child is discharged, either discharged to you or discharged to God. So the longest a family had been with us in those 41 years is 18 months. So can you imagine that room does not turn over for 18 months?
Wow.
And we knew that we need to do better for families who are coming from all over the world to receive world-class medical treatment. At any given time, and I've been the CEO now for almost 10 years, we would have a wait list of between 50 to 125 families in this little 31-bedroom home. So we started looking at ways that we could serve more families. And COVID hit in March of 2020, and I will never forget that, not because of COVID, but how we at the Ronald McDonald House were going to be able to help more families. And the CEO at the hospital at that time took a tour of what was the Hope Lodge. And the Hope Lodge is located at 2121 Southwest 16th Street, the same street that runs into the Children's Hospital. Ironic for that.
Mm-hmm.
And the Hope Lodge served adults who were undergoing cancer treatment. And for some reason, they stopped operations in March of 2020. The building and the property are owned by the state of Florida. So when the CEO took a tour, his wife served on my board of directors. He said, Sherry, this is a perfect place for you to expand the Ronald McDonald House. And I took my board, and it was so incredibly surreal, Ben. It looked like someone took families and sucked them out with a spaceship. There on the floor were towels, sheets were on the beds, pots and pans were in the kitchen. And I'm not quite a germaphobe. I'm like, this is a little creepy and a little scary. And so I couldn't see the possibilities. But thank God for people like Brian Nasworth, who's the chair of my board, and Bobby Robinson, and Michael Potapow. And I've got fabulous people on my board, Ed Potts. Those are people who could see the possibilities. And so we began working with the state of Florida in obtaining a lease for that property. And so it took some time to make that happen. However, On November 21st, 2022, we received our lease to begin the renovations at what is now our new Ronald McDonald House. And so we hired an architect. We hired Parrish McCall constructors, and Parrish McCall did all the pre-construction work for free.
What?
So we love Mike Walsh. We love his entire team. And on January the 3rd, we began the renovations to our 45,000 square foot house, 50 guest suites. And on the 24th of August, we cut the ribbon. So think about this, Ben. In less time than you gestate a baby, because you have your baby in your tummy for 8 months, 7 months, we renovated a 45,000 square foot house.
Wow.
And we brought our first families in on August 28th.
Isn't that exciting?
Oh my gosh, can you tell? It's very exciting. Yes.
So what comes to my mind is when you talk about, number one, the generosity from the community, people giving, right? And even contractor giving free, right, to help make this happen. For you, where does that passion come from? Where does this, let's take a quick break and go talk about Sherry Houston. Who is Sherry Houston?
I'm a perfectionist. I care very deeply. I'm incredibly emotional. I expect people. I'm very authentic and very transparent. So what you see is what you get all the time. And when I believe in something very passionately, I will give 7,000,000% of myself to make something happen. And I will never forget. It was really 7 years ago. We would have families call the Ronald McDonald House every day who were on our wait list. And the calls usually went to a volunteer at the front desk. And probably more information you want to know, but I will share this to everyone in the world. I was going to go to the bathroom, and so I heard a volunteer talking to a family, and the volunteer was crying. I know the mom on the other end of the phone was crying. And I thought to myself, there has got to be a better way. I am called to do better for families who have a seriously ill child. Ben, I have 2 children of my own. My son is 33. My daughter's 30. My grandson is 5. My granddaughters are twins. They are going to be 2 on November the 1st. And so I have been so blessed, and my husband and I have been blessed to have healthy children and healthy grandchildren so far. So I knew that there had to be a better way. And so to plow through a bunch of silly things, I knew I needed to make it happen. And if it was going to kill me, I was still going to make it happen. Yeah. And I'll tell you something, that capital campaign was not an easy process. I thought it was going to be much more fun. I thought it was going to be much easier. But I will tell you, the highs were so high. I was 2 gazillion feet above sea level. And when something horrible happened during that campaign and people told me no, and the way they told me no, It was really sad, and it was really hard, and I just didn't expect that, because raising money, and I've been the chief development officer for the past 9 years, and so raising money for the house has not been hard. It's literally been fun, joyful, energizing, and that's exactly what I thought would happen in the capital campaign, and it didn't happen that way at all. And there were a couple of key people that took the lead. Many of those donors had never given to the house before, which isn't your traditional capital campaign. Usually it's those people who have given to you all along who step up to the plate. And the people who had been giving all along said, I'm not so sure you can do this. Like, are you serious? Have I not really produced in the years I've been with us? So there were lots of obstacles we needed to overcome. And we did it. Like, oh my goodness, we did it because it was the right thing to do.
It's you remind me of some years ago, I had the opportunity to run for office and raise money. And I had a good friend of mine named Chuck Clemens.
I love Chuck. He's an awesome human.
Yes, he is. So Chuck says, who's current representative, actually majority whip in Tallahassee, says, Ben, it's going to be like a roller coaster. Because there's going to be highs and there's going to be lows. And the people that you thought were going to support you are not. And the people that you never thought would, they will. And so it reminded me of that the people you think that are sort of a yes, I know I can count on, this individual to give me, maybe wasn't there, but then someone else stepped up. And I guess it's how it all works. In the end, it all sort of works out. So talk to me about, you're from Pennsylvania originally. Did you mention that? You said that.
I am. I'm a Pennsylvania girl. I was born in Bethlehem, went to school in Lancaster, went to graduate school in Pittsburgh. So, yes, I am all Pennsylvania. But although my husband and I moved down here 37 years ago, so now I'm
Oh, you're a
Floridian.
Floridian. Yeah, you're definitely in. So it's the Ronald McDonald House started in Philadelphia,
It
like
did.
1970. I'm acting like I've done my research already. Can you tell? 1974, I think.
Yes, that's true. It's the Hill family had a daughter by the name of Kim. And when Kim was 3 years old, she was diagnosed with cancer. And back then, they wanted to be close to the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, and there was no place that they could stay nearby. And the other problem was there was no place they could stay nearby that was affordable. And many times when you're undergoing cancer treatment or you're waiting for a transplant, it's not a day or two in the hospital. It can be months in the hospital. So the Hill family worked very closely with McDonald's, and the first Ronald McDonald House in Philadelphia was funded with Shamrock Shake monies, which is really kind of cool.
Yeah.
And what makes it even cooler is my husband is not only a graduate of Franklin and Marshall College, which is where we both met in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. He went to Wharton School of Business. So when we were first married, we lived down the street from the Ronald McDonald House, and who would have ever thought I would end up here at our Ronald McDonald House years later?
Absolutely. Take me through a day in the life of a family that's there. I have two girls, and they're healthy. One of them had some issues the first year, which are absolutely pale in comparison to what some of these families are going through. But in those moments, just a croup cough that my daughter has sounds like a seal at 2 a.m. As a father and a mother and my wife, was frightening. Like, what's happening? We're new parents. We've never seen this before. We need to get her to the emergency room. I can only imagine what someone is dealing with these kids that have illnesses. What are they going through? Because I understand the purpose of Ronald McDonald House, I understand the importance of what you guys do, but what's really happening day to day there?
Let me take one step back before
Sure.
I answer that question. So the number one diagnosis of a family who stays with us is a family waiting for a heart.
Okay.
So think about this. For you to get a heart in your daughter, do you know a child has to die?
Mm.
So there are lots and lots of emotions. The second diagnosis is a family who's had a preemie baby. So many of those preemie babies are first-time babies. Many of those preemie babies are multiple birth babies. The third diagnosis of a family who stays with us is a family who's undergoing cancer treatment for their child. And we prong that in two different ways. Sometimes we are helping families whose child is going through outpatient services. So the mom and dad, along with the child who's undergoing cancer treatment, will stay at our house, go back and forth to the hospital every single day. Sometimes treatment takes that child down to its very core. The child will spend the night in the hospital, come back a day or two later. Most of the children who are undergoing cancer treatment are children who have tumors on one of their organs, and we never see that child because they are so ill. And they go through surgeries and then go through so many kinds of treatments that they never come back to the Ronald McDonald House. Mom and dad stay with them. So a typical day for one of our families is they may wake up at 4 a.m. They're over at the hospital at 6 a.m. They grab something from our kitchen to have breakfast. They take the tram over to the hospital, and because we're very fortunate, the tram comes every 35 to 40 minutes. And if you had to walk to the hospital, it's a probably 10-minute walk. It's pretty easy to do. And you sit by your child's bedside while you meet with doctors and nurses and social workers and make decisions that are life-saving for your child. And so if you choose X, then Y doesn't happen, or you choose Y, and then there's a complication that puts you into the X category. So our families, if I thought I was undergoing a roller coaster when I was raising money with the capital campaign, our families do this day in and day out. They sometimes come home for lunch, and we have a grab-and-go lunch program. Most of the time they don't. They'll maybe visit our family room and grab some Cheetos or grab some kind of microwavable meal, and then go back to their child's bedside. We serve dinner through our visiting chef program at 6 o'clock. Sometimes families come home at 6, but depending what's happening with their child, they may wait until their child goes to sleep to be able to leave them. Sometimes they never leave their child. Mom stays at the bedside. Dad comes home, maybe with other children in tow. And then they flip it that dad spends the night and then mom comes back to the house to be with those other children. So a typical day is they're spending all their time at the hospital with their child who's seriously ill. And when they come home and they're able to just take their shoes off and be able to breathe and just have some type of nourishment and have a sense of normalcy, and to think that my team is able to do that is an incredible honor.
How important is compassion?
Huge.
It can
Kindness, compassion. Yeah.
It can be real tough. I mean, the stress levels on the parents and maybe even the stress levels on your staff at times, it can be a lot because it's all very emotional.
There's a lot of emotion. I don't know I don't have the opportunity to know the families as well as my director of family and guest services. My first year, I knew families who stayed the longest at the house. I'm giving tours and I'm meeting those families. And when a child would pass, I would come home at night and not be able to function. And it was my husband, Joel, who said, you either need to be able to set some boundaries. He said, or this is really not going to work, Sherry, because you have internalized all of this. And I started to realize that we serve families whose children are so ill. And if we give those families that sense of kindness, compassion, normalcy for even a month, that they can spend another month with their child, then that's a gift. And I needed to let go of wanting everyone to live because it wasn't possible. And now I think to myself, there are all these angels who look down from heaven and they're helping our house propel forward. And they're giving life and breath and hope to so many families who walk through our door.
Special.
It is.
It really is. You've doubled in size. You're providing for more families. When the Ronald McDonald House was founded in Philadelphia, it really didn't involve, I don't believe, Ray and Joan Kroc at that time. It was just a local restaurant.
Right.
Is that right?
Right.
But since then, Ray and Joan Kroc, and now Ray passed away in the 80s and Joan in the early 2000s, they've given almost $200 million. It was $180 million.
That's true. Every chapter of the Ronald McDonald House receives seed money, and that allows us to begin building our chapter and serving families. And in fact, we've received a $250,000 gift from the foundation to expand our services.
How important is it when you're driving through the McDonald's drive-through and they say, would you like to round up for the Ronald McDonald House for, the $9, it's 40 more cents or something? How important is that money, that campaign for you and what you guys are doing?
Huge. And it's not just the roundup, it's actually the canister program too. So if you have money and you put money in those coin boxes, but most people, I don't carry any money. I probably have $1 to my name right now. But I do have lots of credit cards. So to be able to round up, that brings in 18% of our operating budget. So it is huge.
Wow. So what's maybe something that people don't know about the Ronald McDonald House and what you guys offer, right? We know that the families stay there, but is there some maybe little known fact or something that you guys offer that maybe families find out when they get there that may not really know?
We try to provide that sense of normalcy. So we have family activities a couple times a week. We bring in groups that come in and cook and bake. So we become a family to our families who are coming from all over the world to stay close to their child.
Talk about that, all over the world. So there's a lot of you said all over the world. So people come here from all over the world, but there are Ronald McDonald houses all over the world, right?
Yes. So Ronald McDonald House Charities, RMHC Global, as we call it, they're located in Oak Brook, Illinois. They license every single Ronald McDonald House. So there are over 385 houses internationally. Then there are 200 some family rooms in the hospital. And then the third program, and we don't have this program, is a mobile van that goes out into the rural areas. And I only expect we'll have that program. So we have 2 of the 3 programs that are licensed by Ronald McDonald House Charities to keep families close to their child.
And the reason you would have someone come to the Ronald McDonald House here versus one maybe closer to home is because of specialty hospital doctors and things like that, maybe at Shands?
Absolutely. In fact, the number one diagnosis I mentioned is a family waiting for a heart. So the outcomes are so incredibly wonderful and great. Dr. Bleiweiss, Dr. Fricker, Dr. Kovu, these are all world-renowned cardiac specialists. And so if you want a heart to be put in your child, you want one of those doctors to be touching your child because their outcomes are absolutely excellent.
It's because they've got a lot of experience, I'm sure, and have honed their craft in, which is important. It's interesting. So we were at the Red Shoe Affair, right? Just a few months ago, and you're trying to create an event of happiness, and raise money and have an enjoyable evening, which it always is. But on the other side, it's for a cause that's not, while the cause is great, you're dealing with something that's not that great, right? Illnesses and diagnoses and families. How do you juggle that, right? Your passion, you're happy, you're like, hey, let's go. I guess it's because of where the money's going.
Absolutely. I think especially Red Shoe Affair is the largest event that we do, and so I'm thrilled to say we sold out at the Stephen C. O'Connell Center at the Exactech Arena. 800 people were at the Red Shoe Affair this year. And I'm really excited to tell you, we netted the most in the history of the house.
Oh, wow.
$300,000. I mean, Ben, you helped make that happen. You're on stage as my live auctioneer. Like, whoa, it was so cool. But to be able to invest that money back with our families, whether we're buying pillows, whether we're buying blankets, when we don't have meals, we're buying pizza and we're buying food for our families. So it gets reinvested and helps our families have a sense of normalcy. And truly, families in my time, these past 9 years, we've had families from Canada, Dominican Republic, South Florida, Los Angeles, Paris, London, Australia.
Wow.
We had a young girl who was from Japan who received a double lung transplant, and she was 17 years old. So we as Ronald McDonald Houses are needed to serve the families who are coming from whatever area because the specialty's at the Children's Hospital. So if we had a really bad Children's Hospital, thank God we don't,
right,
then we wouldn't need to have expanded our Ronald McDonald House.
Do you have families that come back after they've gone and they're healthy, hopefully?
Absolutely. We have families that come back all the time for rechecks,
Yep.
and they visit with us. And sometimes we have families that just come back because they're driving through on a vacation and they just want to say hello because we become a house. We're their family for that extended period of time. So I can tell you a story. Oh my gosh, I tell this story all the time. So I think it was my second or third year. We had a mom who gave birth to quadruplets. Okay, that's 4 babies.
Yep.
I don't know how she did it. There were 3 little girls and 1 little boy. And they were from South Africa, and they were born, I think, about 2 pounds apiece. And she and her husband went over and visited their children all the time. Children were discharged. They're very healthy children. They came back. They actually had family that moved to Gainesville. And so it was pre-COVID. They came back to the Ronald McDonald House, and they sat and said, to their children, they were 4 years old then, this is where mom and dad would have dinner, and this is where mommy expressed her breast milk, and this is the room that mommy and daddy stayed in. And it was really cute to see 4-year-olds think, this is really interesting. Well, the funniest part of the story is they come into my office, and they had mom and dad sent a Christmas card to me with all the pictures of the children. So that was in the back on the bulletin board in my desk. And the one little girl, she was very chatty. She goes, that's me. I said, I know. You are so important in my life. She goes, really? I said, do you have any pictures of me? She goes, I don't know who you are. I thought was the funniest thing. And I said, but now you do. Do you want a picture of me? She goes, no, that's okay. Thank you. But for them to bring those children back, we had cookies that day. We had someone who came in the house and was baking cookies. So the kids were able to get cookies. They grabbed something for lunch. And those children experienced what mom and dad experienced every day, which was really fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have families that come in with kids that are healthy that while one of their siblings is being taken care of, do they enroll them in school locally? Are there programs and ways to keep them?
Oh, yes. So when I first started, we had a family. So the short answer is yes.
Okay.
Many of those children are enrolled in a virtual school.
Okay.
And that works out incredibly well. We have a computer that families can check out. and it works very, very nicely. And that's why we have a lot of activities in the evening, so we can make some of those children feel a little bit more involved. And depending how long a family stays, maybe they'll enroll into the Alachua County school system. And we've had some families, I guess that family's one that was maybe 18 months. They enrolled their children in the school system here because they knew they'd be with us a long time. But I think what breaks my heart the most is those children who come, who are healthy, who put their lives on hold. There's actually been studies done. They're called shadow children. So mom and dad focus all their time on that child in the hospital, rightfully so. But those other children who are healthy, who come out of their world to be here in Gainesville, Florida, they know no one, they have no friends. And for them to have to start a new life is horrible. I'll share another story with you. My dear friend is Debbie Kinman Ford, and Debbie has Cedarville Global Community School. And Debbie told me when I told her I was going to be the CEO at the Ronald McDonald House, she says, anything you need from me, she says, my parents will help you. She says, maybe we could do birthday cakes for people. I said, that sounds great, Debbie. So once again, I had to walk past the front desk to go to the bathroom. I don't go to the bathroom that much. I sound like I do, but usually when I got on my office to go to the bathroom, great things happen. So there was a volunteer at our front desk, and there was a mom and dad, and we have a calendar at the old house at the front desk. And the date circled what day it is. And a little boy, and he was 7, said, Mom and Dad, today's my birthday. And you know that feeling of like, oh crap.
Yeah.
So I turn around and your parents going, and I thought, oh, no, not on my watch.
Yeah.
So I went back to my office. I called Debbie Kinman Ford, and I said, Debbie, I need your help. And she goes, anything. That's a good friend.
Yep.
And I said,
That's a great friend.
I need you to bake a birthday cake because you offered it. And she goes, I did. And she goes, when do you need it? I said, 4:00 today. She goes, for real? I said, yes, I need your help. So she and her teachers not only baked the cake from scratch, they put it in, it's this huge box, Ben. They wrapped the box. There were party favors. There were napkins. There were plates. There were noisemakers. There were little hats. And that night, when that family came home for dinner at 6:00, that little boy walked up to the front desk, and there was this big box. It had his name on it. And he looked at his mom and dad and said, I knew you had something planned for me. And his mom and dad started to cry. And I wasn't there at this time. But that night, he celebrated his 8th birthday with 30 families at the Ronald McDonald House. Now, the silly thing is, I don't know whatever happened to the child in the hospital because you know what? It wasn't for me about the child in the hospital, Ben. It was all about serving that little boy whose birthday was never going to be normal because he wanted to be close to his baby brother or baby sister. And that's what we do every day at the Ronald McDonald House. We make magic happen for all of those children and families.
Cue the pause. You guys do a wonderful thing. You have volunteers that help out?
Oh, lots of great volunteers. Yes, we have volunteers that sit at our front desk and they buzz people in and take our pop tab donations and help our families if they need a cup of coffee made. We also have, of course, our visiting chef program where you can come in with your family and cook a meal. So you bring all the ingredients. We have all the pots and pans and silverware and things like that. Once again, dinner's served about 6:00. We also have a sweets and treats program where you're able to come in and bake something that is whether they are your grandmother's recipe of Toll House cookies or their slice and bake cookies. Ben, you know they smell the same when you cook them, so no one really knows. And but we put them in Ziploc bags, and then families are able to grab and go with whatever sweet treat that you make. And then we have groups that come in and will help clean our house, groups that help weed outside. If there is a way that you want to volunteer, we can match your passion with something that we need at our house.
So let me step over to Sherry Houston again. You're involved in, of course, you're the CEO. Are you involved anywhere else in the community, any other organizations?
I am.
Can you list?
Sure.
Is there a list? Is there a list of them?
There may be several things, yes. Right now, I am president of the Sunrise Rotary Club. And I'm also involved in the Gainesville Women's Forum, and I'm involved in the Junior League of Gainesville. So there are a few things that keep me busy and active in the community. But my husband and I, once again, are just so fortunate. We have the means, we have the time, we have healthy children, and Gainesville has been really good to both of us. So I think we're called to give back and to serve. And so it's an honor and privilege to be able to serve people in Gainesville in so many different ways.
Can you look back? Was that something that you were given as a gift from parents or family that were involved in giving?
My dad was a jeweler in Allentown, Pennsylvania, and my father actually had polio. So my dad overcame a lot of obstacles, and my father could sell ice to people in Iceland. I mean, he was one of the most amazing men. I learned so much from my dad. I worked in my father's jewelry store when I was probably 7 years old. In fact, this is funny. I was doing commercials for my father when I was in first grade, and I was called out by the principal. Like, I was a really good kid, Ben, okay? And I'm in first grade. Like, I'm like goody two-shoes, all right? I get called out. Everyone's like, ooh. So I walk out, and there's a principal. I said, oh, my goodness, what have I done? He says, I heard your commercial on the radio. Oh, okay. Like, I'm like this really quiet little girl. And he says, now I'm going to go by your dad's store, and I'm going to buy my wife a gift tonight. Oh my gosh, that's great. So at the dinner table, I said to my dad, so today I got called out by the principal. My father was a pretty serious man. And he says, Ann, would you like to share more? I said, and said he was coming by to buy a watch for his wife. My dad goes, okay. so yes, I guess I started my radio career rather early.
Yeah, I'd say so. That's awesome. So he gave back as a jeweler up there, or you guys
Yes,
are
he
involved
did.
up there, and then you've taken that down here. I've always appreciated doers, people who set their egos aside and just do, and they work. How do you manage that? How do you manage? Let's step aside from the chair. The position you're in, right? Is yes, you raised money, but there's a managing part there. How do you do that? I've had a lot of guests on here, and we talk about leadership. We talk about management. What's your philosophy on how to keep everybody sort of getting along and doing? It's not foolproof, right? You got some people it's just not going to work. But how do you do that? How do you handle that?
Surround yourself with people better than you. Listen, do a lot of listening, and then pull their talents together to make each one stronger.
Excellent. Ronald McDonald House, what happens are there programs and organizations out there that help when you have to turn a family away? How does that work?
There are, and usually families go back to the social worker at the hospital and receive a lot of social service help. But we partner with several different hotels. Catholic Charities has been really wonderful working with us. We receive some food from Bread of the Mighty. So there's great nonprofits who partner with us to make us stronger.
Perfect. And you have a lot of events throughout the year that you guys do, that you partake.
We do. About 30% of our operating budget comes from these special events.
And is there a way that if you can kind of give a plug to how people can get in touch with you, and then I'll also put it in the description.
Oh, yes. So you can go to our website, rmhcncf.org, and all the events are on there. And so we have two different kinds of events, and we're very fortunate to have two different kinds. So one is actually a board of directors sponsored. So that starts with a clay shoot in February. Then we do a wine event in April. Then, of course, as I mentioned, we did the Red Shoe Affair that you were at in August. Coming up on November 5th, we have a Beyond Bourbon event, and we work with Embers Prime Steak Wood Grill. And we have 7 to 10 master distillers, and that's held at Valley View. So that is coming up. And then we round out the year with a gingerbread house competition that we're going to be doing at Legacy Park in Alachua. And the food is coming from Harvest Time.
You keep talking about food. This is up my alley here. Okay. Let's not talk about that right now. All
okay,
right?
We won't.
So any last thoughts on the Ronald McDonald House, or anything you have to share? And this is two-part, right? This is Ronald McDonald House, but this is Sherry Houston. When I met you, you lit up the room, right? We did a sound check at the Exact Tech Arena and downtown Gainesville there, University of Florida. And it was like, because I had not met you formally. I'd talked to you on the phone briefly. There was a text message. And then I show up and it's like, Ben! I'm like, me? And it's Sherry. You've got a personality that lights up a room. And I can see why you've been successful at what you've done here with the Ronald McDonald House.
Thank you. Aw, that's really sweet.
Well, you've got a lot of good board members around you. They say a lot of great things about you. You've got people who are community partners and stakeholders that say incredible things like, oh yeah, she's great. And you know why, Sherry?
Why?
Because we can't do it. We can't do what you do. We don't have that talent, that ability. You have this charisma about you that puts you out there and gets people, you know what? I do want to help. And when you called for the birthday cake and said, I need it. And she said, 4:00, really? Yes. Okay. Well, we'll make it happen, because the last thing anybody wants to do is make Sherry mad either.
Thank you. I'll go with that.
Yeah. Well, I've enjoyed having you on here. I appreciate your time and what you do for Ronald McDonald House and all your stakeholders and everybody that helps, and certainly the families. I know they appreciate it, because you're a parent, I'm a parent, and to be in those situations where you don't want to think about where you're putting your head down that night and just be with your kid, to take that worry away and to help, is just a blessing.
Thank you, Ben.
Thank you.